one more time.
Okay, so welcome to 2 Point Perspective, and we're going to draw out our names today. So to start off with, I'm just going to draw out what's known as my horizon line. So make sure this is parallel to the top and bottom of your piece of paper. And I'm just going to put two little crosses, one at each end, for my vanishing points. This line now I'm drawing can be at any angle, and it is a converging line. Once I've done my first converging line, I'm just going to draw down my vertical line, which should be parallel to the left and right of your piece of paper. And then carry on with drawing out my other three converging lines. Now the converging lines angles will dictate the angle of your 3D letters. So I'm just making sure all three of those are drawn in. And I just might put a little cross at the top and bottom of my vertical line. This is what you're aiming for here. 4 converging lines in orange, 1 horizon line in blue, and then your 2 vanishing points at the end. Now that I'm moving on, I'm going to move on with making the rough outer lines for my letters. So I'm going to draw the word fun, and I've got them nice and thick. So the F is going to go in that first big rectangle, U in the second one, and then the N in this one that I've just drawn there. I was going to put a rough crate at the back just to show that that F is going to be a little bit 3D. To draw out my F, the first line I'm going to draw is going to be parallel to that top converging line. And then any going down are going to be parallel to my vertical line. And then any 2 across close to the middle are going to be parallel to my horizon line. And I'm just going to join them all up until I get the rough outer shape of an F. Next one up is the U. Little bit more difficult. We've got a couple of curves to work with here. So I can just draw the rough curves at the bottom working within my little crate. And then I can think about any of those middle lines for the U are going to be parallel to the vertical line. So if I start to draw these in now, that line is going to be parallel to my vertical line, which I drew in the first instance. And that's starting to take a bit of shape. Drawing my N, same within this area here. Try and make this nice and symmetrical, but it's up to you how you want to draw your letter. And I can try and keep some symmetry for this, and just making sure I'm using my ruler to make it nice and neat. Now the next stage that I want to worry about is using the angle of those 2 converging lines to put in some depth to my letters. So I'm using the converging line, and it's parallel to this, and I'm drawing in the thickness of my letter U. Again, I'm just going to draw this parallel to my vertical line, and because it's going to sit behind that letter F, that's all I'm going to need to do, and I can fill in the rest of the curve for the U now, just within that crate that I've drawn. Using this angle of this converging line, if you look at the angle of the ruler now, I can put in the back of that letter U, and that is how we start to add a little bit more depth to the letters. Same angle here, just going to make sure that that is joined in realistic. Then we can do exactly the same technique for the N here, using that same angle from the converging line. And then exactly the same technique applied, but this time we're using the angle of the other converging line because that's below that middle horizon line that you've drawn out. And now my letters are starting to take a little bit more shape. My pencil lines have been quite light, so I can rub them out if I make a mistake. And I'm just going to now add in the depth of the F. And I'm just going to take a few seconds, basically, just to go over all of my lines a little bit thicker in pencil, so it's a little bit clearer for myself to see. And you can do this with yours as well. It should be nice and easy, just to go over the lines. And then we can start to think about the next stage. Next stage is shading. So we can think about adding some shading to the parts which are going to be darker. And this is going to be on that left-hand side of all 3 letters. And then we can use the lines just to add in a little bit of depth. And I could use colouring pencils if I wanted to. And now I'm just going to finish off my U. So because I've chosen the depth of the F to a certain level within that crate, I'm just going to do the same kind of distance for my letter U. And just use that inner curve to join up. and I can think about shading this in. So that's going to be a little bit darker there. And where that curve kind of joins to the upright, that's going to be a little bit darker. And we can just fill in some shading. Could use a colouring pencil for this. And that little curve there might be a little bit darker. So that is what we're working towards.
Right now, in the place to be, ladies and gentlemen, we have no choice but to do this to you one more time. And this time, we're about to hit you with the trick of technology.